In music, songwriters shape the mood of a song using patterns called modes. And while there are many videos with examples of how these patterns sound, it is harder to find an explanation of how you can use modes as a creator and not just as a passive observer. So in this video, we're going to go beyond the mere factoids of modes to really see their true power and practical application. And to do this, instead of citing a bunch of different examples, which is the typical approach, we're going to use just one progression as the example throughout, morphing it in different ways using the various modes. So you can hear more directly the effect of each on the music. So by the end, you'll have a much better sense of these patterns, with ways to use them in your own songs. The song we'll use to illustrate is Pachelbel's Canon, which is a classic tune. In the key of C, for example, it sounds like this. Johann Pachelbel wrote this tune in the 17th century, but it's so good that the progression is used in many songs today, like Basket Case by Green Day, Memories by Maroon 5, and others. And it sounds especially good because it was written in a major key, which sounds nice, like the key of C major in our example here. Basically, Pachelbel took the notes of the C major scale and rearranged them into a melody like this to come up with this classic tune. And by adding chords from the key of C major as well, the song sounds complete with a sort of bright and happy feeling. But what's cool is that the major scale is only one of 7 different modes that each have a unique sound. So Johann Pachelbel could have used any of them to compose a song with different qualities. In other videos, I explain in detail how these patterns are formed. There's a link in the video notes. But the basic idea is that each mode provides an alternative to the plain old major scale, which we can use to alter the melody of a song, as well as derive chords that accompany the melody to create new and interesting sounds. To show you what I mean, let's take each of these C parallel modes one at a time and use them to morph Pachelbel's Canon. Let me know in the comments which ones you think sound the best. As you'll see, the process is a lot like taking a painting by Norman Rockwell and then tweaking it to come up with something similar but new, like a Picasso. So again, to get our bearings, this is the song in its original mode, Ionian. And here's the same tune in Lydian, the lightest mode in the spectrum. It sounds similar to the original, but with the sharp 4 in this pattern, the tune has a slightly more spacey or ethereal feeling. Moving through the parallel modes, the next pattern in the spectrum is Ionian, but since you already know how the song sounds here, let's shift a little further into the darker Mixolydian mode, which also sounds similar to the original version, but with its flat 7 note, the tune becomes a little more loose and bold. Next along the spectrum, shifting into the darker minor modes, is Dorian, which sounds more smooth and mellow. Because Dorian has a minor tonic, the minor 1 here, along with flatted 3 and flat 7 notes, the song sounds fairly different now. But the change is even more noticeable when we slide further along the spectrum into the major key's relative minor mode, Aeolian, or what some people pronounce as Aeolian. Compared to the original version of Pachelbel's Canon, this variation is much more dramatic and even melancholy. then for the last two examples, we have Phrygian and Locrian. Admittedly, these modes sound so dark and dissonant that they're not really as common as the others, but they do give us more options to morph the sound of a song, so let's play them. Phrygian sounds more tense and mysterious than Aeolian. And finally, here is Pachelbel's canon in Locrian, which feels the most dissonant and unstable here at the darkest end of the modal spectrum. Let me know in the comments which modes you think sound the best and the worst. Which parts of the modal spectrum evoke the most interesting sounds? And in other videos, we'll play around with mixing different modes to come up with even more interesting progressions. So thank you for watching. Please let the algorithm know if you liked it, and I will see you in the next one.